Introduce you to our next presenter, who is Bryan Hochstein. Bryan is going to speak to us today on customer success, a commitment to consumers, and business client value. And Bryan is an associate professor of marketing at the University of Alabama. So Bryan, I'm going to invite you to come on stage.
Coming on stage. Hello.
Hi, Bryan. How are you?
We see each other? Okay, I'm good. How are you?
Great. Can you see and hear all okay?
I think I can. Let me try sharing my screen here.
Okay.
I can. And get rid of this. Just 1 second. Share screen, right? There we go. Start sharing. Perfect. All right. I just need to get the right slide up. So thank you for having me on this afternoon. And coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm at an academic conference, the Society for Marketing Advances conference. So zooming in from the East Coast today. And today, just would like to talk a little bit about customer success, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself as well. So are we all good? Can you see my screen and all that? I think we should be good, hopefully.
Right.
Okay.
See.
So good, thank you. So I'll make sure before I'm talking, nobody can see what I have going on. So I'll tell you a brief bit about myself. So I'm an associate professor of marketing at the University of Alabama. I've been at Alabama. This is my 7th year. I went to Florida State before that for my PhD, and I'd worked for 20 years in business selling for Time Warner Cable in Wisconsin prior to moving south to a little bit warmer winters. And kind of my journey with customer success and why I'm talking about this topic now is the previous two speakers have talked a little bit more about the pre-sale side of sales, at least most of what they're talking about. And this customer success thing is kind of the post, or it is the post-sale. After a sale's been made, customer success comes into play. I was a full cycle salesperson in my job at Time Warner before I got into working as an academic and pursuing my PhD. And I would do everything from prospecting and sales funnels all the way through to maintaining client relationships and providing service and upselling and cross-selling and renewing everything that we did. So that was my job. And as I got into my new job as an academic, I've learned more and more about sales and the different types of salespeople there are and the different ways that sales is a strategy for companies. And one relatively new way was this customer success, which still has sales involved, but it looks at the post-sale part differently. So to learn more about it, I've conducted well over 500 interviews with people from executives, CEOs, and chief customer officers to those that do the job as customer success managers and everybody in between. And I published several papers on the topic, and I have several more that are working through right now. So that's kind of my background and who I am. And for today, kind of high level, I'm going to ask a poll question here in a moment, but the learning objectives are really just to talk about what customer success is and what it does, because a lot of people are not familiar with it. Review consumer examples of it. I wanted to bring this because we're talking about consumers and business customers today. I wanted to talk about the consumer side a little bit, which isn't where I research it so much, but there definitely are examples of it. Also business examples, and there's other examples too, which probably could be considered consumer examples, but they're slightly different. Then we'll talk a little bit about teaching about this topic, or how you might be able to include it in the classes that you currently teach, and some resources for customer success as you go from this session today. So that's kind of it. My poll question is, have you heard of customer success before? That's the question I have for you. I'm not sure how I think you have to put that up on your end, or the Stukin people have to. And I'm not certain how I see it. Let's see if I can get there. Oops, I can see it now. It's going to be a little messy, I guess. Okay, so far we have 5 yes. We have some yeses, some maybes, no's, but it's looking like it's about a 50-50 split probably between the maybes, no's, and yeses, which is pretty common, and that gives me a good read of the audience here. That's pretty common of customer success in general. Some people know a lot about it, and many others know nothing about it. So we'll talk about it today, and I guess bear with this presentation because well over half of this crowd knows nothing about customer success. So we'll start at the very beginning. So I start with this idea of what is customer success and what does it do? And kind of a way I can tell you about it, if we're thinking about it in terms of marketing, we have a selling company and a customer company. I study B2B topics. We'll talk about consumers as we go further, but and we've always been looking at what our customers need and what they want and the things that they're looking for in our products. So that's not new. That's been going back for decades and maybe even centuries. And we've gotten better at it over time. We found more and more ways to follow shoppers around stores and to view their buying behavior and all kinds of stuff. And we've gotten better at focus groups and seeing how consumers use the products a little bit more from the outside view looking in. And that's what marketing has been doing. And that's what sales have been doing. And that's what we do, right? As people that sell things. But now companies are finding they can do more than that. They're finding that they can maybe see their own product use from within the customer's organization. So maybe the person that they work with, their buying person, maybe some of the actions that are taken there can help them to not have to ask, like, how's it going with our product or what would you like to see? But maybe we can kind of virtually get at this idea of what's going on just based on how our product's being used. And maybe the CEO, we can find out things about the top leadership team through meetings and through different things to find out more, and also some objective use data to find out more. And then probably most important is just the users of the product. If it's a technology product or anything that has a digital solution involved with it, we can start getting really, really good granular use data, like how much of our product's being used, what modules of our product, what things are people clicking on, what aren't they? Are our customers optimizing things? And using analytics, we can find out a lot more about how our customers are using our products and really almost get a view back at our company from like sitting at their desk without actually being sitting at their desk. That's kind of the idea of customer success. We want to know more about product use. We want to help customers to use products better. So kind of the big thing in customer success then is the customer's success, as it's called, kind of obvious, is the goal of this strategy and of this role that's in companies. Not really different, I guess you'd say, than sales or marketing in the past, but the way it's done is a little different. Of course, we've always wanted our customers to like our products and use them and use more of them and be loyal to them. But we haven't always been there, like at their side, helping them to identify ways that they can use products better and enduring them to us even more. So it goes beyond what this meant in the past. And I like to tell the story of like, why does this even exist? We've had marketing and sales. We know a lot about it. We've been working in this area for really hundreds of years, right? But why customer success and where did it start? Well, the story goes that Salesforce.com, when they really started their product and really started growing it, and somewhere around 2005, I'm not certain of the exact date, they were really successful. They had this new innovative idea, right? For those of you that remember that time, their new innovative idea seems like nothing new and innovative to us anymore. But the new innovative idea was, we're not going to sell you a CRM system for your sales company that requires you to spend, maybe $10 million on a data center and a huge upfront investment on the actual software and all kinds of training and everything, and that where you end up as a customer be captive to this very large upfront investment. Instead of that, we're going to have this web-based system, and we're going to store your data somewhere in the cloud. And you don't need to have a big data center in your company. And it's gonna be relatively easy for your employees to use. So we can just get you set up like in a day, which was very different than it was before. It's a very different buying decision. It also changed the idea that the customer had to stay there because they didn't have this huge anchor of, I've spent $10 million, I need to keep using this product. But because of that, Salesforce was really successful. And they started landing a lot of customers. We'd say, each one customer is a fish is the analogy. I pulled a picture of a fish here. And as the story goes, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce at the time, said, we're getting really great at landing fish. We're bringing on customers faster than we can possibly process them. They're using our products. But the problem is, for every one fish we throw into the boat, two more fall out the other side. And they started to realize that selling the product was easy, but maintaining and retaining the customers was very difficult, because the product was not captive, right? The customer didn't really need to keep using it. They could decide soon after buying it that it wasn't maybe for them, and they could just cancel their subscription. Other problem is the product was somewhat easy to use, but not everybody used it or figured it out or got all the value they thought they were promised, or they thought they could get from it. They maybe didn't get that. And the salespeople weren't equipped or capable to, they were out selling, landing more fish, right? They weren't capable to actually keep those customers and help educate them and train them and get them using the product. And they didn't have the tools and the knowledge and everything to do that. So that's kind of where it started. Salesforce came up with this idea of customer success. And kind of looking at it still at kind of very high level, why and where does this thing fit? I've done a lot of research on informed buyers. So kind of things going on in our world right now with customers, either business or consumer. They have a lot of information. There's a lot of digital stuff going on. If our products are digital, we might have this kind of subscription-based thing I was talking about with Salesforce. Our companies can be very complex, and customers need to work, especially in B2B, need to work with a lot of different teams and people, which makes it more complex and somewhat frustrating for them. There can be changing product values. So anything that has a digital solution included, like Stukent, right, can change. So the one nice thing about Stukent's products is, and this isn't, I guess it is a Stukent day, so I can say this is sort of a sales pitch, but it's not. It's an example. Their products can be updated regularly, which is different than our traditional ways of getting this information. So that's great, but that also means that unless I know about it or figure out how to use it better or find this new value, that it's changing, but it might not help me at all because I don't know about it. Mention the subscription models. People pay for things now on a monthly basis and maybe sign up for shorter term contracts, and they don't have this huge upfront investment. There's this thing of dynamic relationships, which has come around in the marketing literature, mainly just saying that we always look at relationship marketing, but we often haven't thought about how they can move in positive and negative directions. It doesn't always just terminate, but relationships can be strengthened or weakened based on the actions that we take. And then the last one I have here is, again, this there's much lower switching costs, right now. So people can churn easily and leave using our product. So without customer success, we say the buyers have the power. Everything we read, all of my research has said that buyers have much more power than they used to. But with customer success, the buyers again need sellers is kind of the point. They start getting some value, more value back from the seller, and it makes the seller be somebody that the customer will stick with longer, be more loyal to. All right, so still haven't exactly answered what customer success is. I'm gonna give you a couple of industry ideas of what it looks like. Customer success from HubSpot. They say customer success is anticipating customer challenges or questions and proactively providing solutions and answers. Customer success helps you boost customer happiness and retention, thus increasing your revenue and customer loyalty. Kind of an okay definition, doesn't tell us everything. And I know people in the industry don't really like that word of happiness because it's more than just happiness. It's the idea of value and getting what you deserve and what you paid for and what you expect. So happiness might not capture it. Let's look at what Qualtrics has to say. Customer success is the practice of meeting customer needs when using your products or services. This might mean positioning your team as thought partners, strategists, and the customer's advocate internally to make sure those needs are met. Pretty good. It goes on, but pretty good. It's talking more about the use of products and the customers needing to get, they're becoming, really important. We're starting to advocate for them internally and bringing their thoughts into the process, making sure they're getting stuff from our products. That was Qualtrics. Here's what I would say it is this is from a book, which I'll highlight in a moment, but there's two things going on. There's more than two, but two core things. Customer success is a strategy. It's the business strategy of ensuring customers achieve their desired outcomes and goals while using a product or service more effectively. So the big change is the idea of we really focus on product use with customer success. And then that transitions us to this idea of this customer success manager. So there's people in the world that do this job. There's actually a lot of people in the world that do this job. It looks kind of like a sales job, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment, but it isn't exactly a sales job. The qualified individual that engages with the customer, acutely assesses their needs, strategically aligns the use of their products and services to achieve those needs, and ensures that the customer attains their expected outcomes by tactically and proactively taking actions along the way. Kind of a long thought, but the idea is product use, working with the customer really closely, understanding their needs, and tactically and proactively doing things to help them achieve those needs, which goes beyond what we normally would do in sales. In sales, we'd like to do all this stuff, but our salespeople have the goal of selling more. customer success managers have the goal of helping customers to achieve their value outcomes more. That's the difference. The goal outcome is the difference. Salespeople want to sell more product. They're compensated on selling. They work on commissions and quotas. And customer success, it's more of a salary-based thing with maybe some bonuses based on longer-term type metrics, but it's based on the idea that the customer is using more and more of the product and getting more and more value from it on an ongoing and never-ending basis, always assessing and reassessing those goals. Okay, kind of summing this one up here, the customer success manager's primary charter is to ensure the renewal event is essentially a non-event. The CSM focuses on the customer's product goals, and they're responsible for customer loyalty, satisfaction. They advocate for the customers. They also can help the customers to use the product more widely across the users of the product. And they can become a lead generator for growth and revenue expansion. So it's all in the post-sale space, working on how the customer is going to stay there with the company and continue to be satisfied and getting value and will be retained. Okay. Poll question for you. How many CSM jobs are open in the United States right now? I think this is kind of really the crux of why this should be important to you. What do we think? I'm going to have to do this sort of, I'm sorry, clunky way to do this, but what do we think? 100,000 CSM jobs, 50,000, 250, 500,000, a million. What do we think? Okay, I said 100,000, 10,000 at first. 10,000, 50,000, 250,000, 500,000 or a million. Okay, so we're getting some answers in, and it looks like most of you are on the lower end saying maybe 10 to 250,000 is where everybody's answering. Okay, that's interesting. Let me go back here to my slides, put it back into presentation. All right, there's our poll question. Okay, so I'm not going to say this is a perfectly verifiable source, but I literally pulled this yesterday from ZipRecruiter. Customer Success Manager Jobs, United States. 1,064,357 open jobs in the United States. I'm pretty certain you could sort through here and find that the number isn't exactly that. There's going to be some duplications. There's going to be some jobs that aren't desirable or maybe are different than a customer success job. However, this is a pretty consistent and growing number that I've been tracking now for 6 years now, I guess. And the customer success manager does have other names for it. It can be called client success. It can be called customer outcome manager, customer retention manager. So if we really were to put all of these titles in, I think saying there's 1 million jobs open in this space right now could be pretty realistic. I can't back it up with anything other than this slide right here. But the reason I'm talking to you today is that half of the people on this call in a rough poll said, or a quick poll said, they didn't know about this, and we're educators. I'm an educator as well. 1 million jobs out there, jobs that are not exactly sales jobs, but take some sales skills, but really cater to this type of person that is looking for the long-term relationship building, working with clients, helping them to achieve things, really a fulfilling type career that a lot of our students are looking for. So over 1 million, we could say maybe 1 million jobs exist in the United States today in this space. And to date, I know that my university, I teach a master's class on this. I know an educator that has a master's program in San Francisco, the University of San Francisco. Could maybe find a few other places if we looked that are teaching about this in their sales and their undergrad programs. But there's almost none. I know more that do it in like Brazil, and there's quite a few doing things about it in Europe, but in the United States, there's not many. So I think there's a great opportunity for us as educators to learn a bit more about this job and more about this idea of customer success and bring it into our classroom. So let me give you some examples though to make it a little bit more, concrete. Now I had to think about consumer examples, and perhaps we can think of some more, but right now let's think about Amazon. Not a perfect thing, and customer success is usually considered like a job, a person, individual attention to a larger B2B client. But there's also this thing called tech touch customer success, which is more analytics based, and it's a one-to-many approach. It's pretty much a customized marketing approach, but it's looking at different segments and finding ways to get to them based on the individual's product use. So Amazon delights their customers with a smooth and informed purchasing experience and return system, lightning fast delivery, and excellent customer support. Okay, Then they talk about their retail. They talk about stuff like they have predictive recommendations to increase upsell and cross-sell opportunities based on customer profiles. So if you think about Amazon, and it's just a loose example, but Amazon will give you suggestions. I think we all aware of that, right? And they will try and prompt you if you might need something because they think you're out of it based on timing. They don't really know how you're using, how much you're using the detergent or something in your home, but they will they'll try and keep you up to date. They're finding ways to know what you purchased before and anticipate and predict when you'll need to purchase it again or similar things like it. Okay. So that's one example if you think about that. Another one is this one. This is actually an older example, but I have a couple of GM vehicles, and they do things that are pretty close to customer success. Other cars may do it too. I'm just familiar with GM. They have these diagnostic alerts, and they're based on current or existing conditions in the vehicle. Proactive alerts use data from the vehicle system, and the word proactive is very, very much a key that it might be something about customer success. So this article I was looking at from Motor Trend about OnStar, and this is from 2016, so this is older. It says if a component is in need of replacement, OnStar will send a notification via email, text, in-vehicle alerts, and through the OnStar Remote Link smartphone app. OnStar's enrolled owners currently receive a diagnostic update of tire pressure, oil life, and other key data points. So this OnStar and the computer in the car is looking at really where your car is, what's being done with it, how much is it being driven, are things nearing the end of their life, is there something going wrong right now? And they're sending you either a reactive, something broke in your car. I get ones about tire pressure periodically, or they're sending you a proactive. It would be good for you to do some maintenance based on this component in your car having this many miles on it or something. So they're finding ways to use the information generated by your car's computers, which is sent through them through OnStar, individual to your use in your car. And then they are translating that totally automated and not by a person just sitting there doing it, and sending you back something that might help you to use their car better, right? So it'll run better and it'll have the right maintenance. It seems pretty close to customer success to me. Okay, business examples. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but I brought up IBM, and this isn't the greatest example right here. I'll give you a resource and tell you where I got these from because there's a lot of customer case studies out there. But IBM is one. I've talked to a lot of their executives, and the good thing about IBM is they've been around forever. They were and still are in some cases very much a licensing and on-site selling you a big product, a big machine, a big software, all of that kind of stuff. But over time, they become more cloud-based, and their products have become more service-oriented, cloud-based tools that people use, and they've had to transition to a customer success model. They do it in a lot of their different lines. Dell, again, another manufacturer of hardware, but they have a data thing called Boomi. I'm not going to get into what it is too much, but it's a way to use and analyze and organize and keep data in ways that it's usable for you. But a hardware manufacturer went into the digital solution space, the digital service space, and they found that they needed to have these customer success managers to help people with this product that had a lot more value, but that customers weren't really finding it. Beyond their salespeople that sold it, they need somebody to kind of walk the customer through it. Okay, and I bring up John Deere. I'm trying to bring up examples of companies we know that we might not think would have this. John Deere is a great example because they become much more than just a equipment tractor company. Really what they do now, I'll read some of these highlighted things. The new model is designed to unlock new value for customers and respond more quickly to changing market conditions. They integrate the smart technology innovation with Deere's legacy of manufacturing excellence. And it's designed to unlock new value for customers and to help them become more profitable and sustainable while simultaneously revolutioning the agriculture and construction industries through the rapid introduction of new technologies. That's a lot of not specific stuff, but what they're doing is, and kind of the quick example is, tractors these days, or any of the other things John Deere does, provide a lot of data. They're like computers that work in the field. They're positioned, John Deere, through their software services, knows where a tractor is through GPS. They know what type of seeds are being planted. They know what the soil conditions are through sensors in the planting mechanisms. They know what the moisture of the soil is. They know what the weather conditions are. They have lots of data which can be brought together and can help the farmer or the corporate farm to really maximize what they need to do with those whatever their tractor's been doing in the field. If they're planting seeds or harvesting, they get real-time data and post-time data to help them predict and find more value through using the products of John Deere to grow and harvest crops more efficiently. It's a long story. You can read about it if you Google it. Very interesting what they're doing with that kind of stuff. It's bringing together all kinds of data from multiple sources, weather and all over, to really make this good model of how to grow just the right crop. It's kind of interesting. But it all goes back to product use data. And then let's get into other examples here, kind of into the home stretch. I just pulled up my own university, University of Alabama, and probably most of your universities have this as well. The idea of student success, which is arguably about the same thing. This used to be called guidance counseling, I think, but it's different now. There's a lot more going on, and all of this has to do with how things have gotten more complex. I know all of our universities, I think I can say all without being too general, are trying to find ways to help students to not be a withdraw, to not be somebody that drops, and to be more successful. The challenge of getting through a university system has really become much more complex over the years. What you need when you're done is much more, has a lot more components to it, and a lot of students can get lost in that and they just give up. Many of our universities have student success centers that monitor lots of data points about the student and help them when they need it, reactively when they're in trouble, but also proactively to help them get to the place they need to be at graduation without having missed some of the steps that they might miss. Very similar to customer success. Patient success, same thing. This is a company that sells a software for it, but you can look around in your hospitals and your clinics. Kind of the idea of this is you can give a patient, a physician can give a patient a great recipe, a great prescription, here's what you need to do for recovery. It's all of these things. But if the patient doesn't do any of those things, it won't help them at all, right? So patient success managers are these kind of advocates for the patient. And also they help to oversee and manage the care across multiple doctor's offices, physicians, medications, and also the timing of when everything has to be done and making sure it's being done and tracking data that's coming back in through apps and things like that. So it's a consumer type thing, but in the healthcare space. So it's all around us. If you start looking, you'll start to see this everywhere. Even in our faculty at Alabama, I just went through tenure this last year. What used to be called digital measures is now called faculty success, because the idea is it's being proactive to help us to be better and to be in the right place in our career at the right time. So it's all around. I'm going to transition into teaching customer success. And I'm going to tell you, it's sort of still tricky. Okay. There isn't yet a solution for this exactly, but there kind of is. And Stukin is a part of that to some extent. And as this goes on, it'll probably, evolve and emerge and mature. But one thing we'll provide for you is I've given this to the Stukin people. I have this 2-page article I wrote for the Sales Education Foundation's annual 2022 report. It just talks about some of the things I just told you, but also it has a good section on what can you do if you want to teach this stuff. So I would encourage you to download that if that's available to you. If not, email me and I'll get it to you. It's just 2 pages. I'm not saying it's great written material, but it does have some useful links and helpful things in it. There is a book. This is the one I recommend. There's a lot of books on this subject, actually, but this one is written by 2 authors that I know, Ashvin and then Ruben Rabago. This book came out in 2019. Yeah, I was at the launch in London in fall of 2019. And this is a very much tactical, like how do you do the job kind of book. So if you want to teach a class, I use this in my class that I teach. It's almost like a textbook. You can take students through it and it'll get you pretty far down the road of what somebody doing the job would need to do. There's also some books more on the strategy, but if you want to teach students how to do this job and how it differs from sales, this book is a great spot for that. And I'll also tell you, because this is just a Stukin thing, but I've reviewed a lot of different sales material over the years, and I haven't seen this anywhere. I have a textbook in a different area, marketing strategy, that has this in it. I talk a little bit about customer success, but other than that, I haven't seen it in other books until I looked at Stukin's materials. Their professional selling course, not in a great detail, but talks about this post-sale stuff, talks about customer success management, and it introduces it to students anyways. And I think that's kind of what I want to tell you about teaching it. Right now, I don't know that there's a huge need to teach this like as a standalone class, but I think it has a place in your curriculums. And I'm going to ask you a poll about that. Do you see ways that customer success can be included in your teaching? And this is just a very simple yes, no. I think we have consumer behavior people, sales people here. Let's see if we can get this poll up. I think I had it for the Stukin folks. Do we have the poll? If not, I'll just move along. We got a poll. You see ways that customer success can be included in your teaching. I think my biggest sales pitches for this is that there's a lot of jobs. You could Google it in your local market to see. There's companies interested to, if you have someone in your local market and they're looking to hire, they'll likely be willing to come in and talk to your different classes. If you're teaching sales, it can fit as part of that. If you're teaching consumer behavior, it could fit in there too. And I have a little bit of no and some maybe. It's something you need to think about a little bit, but there are jobs in this space. And if nothing else, I really kind of my role I see right now as being an evangelist for this topic of customer success to universities, because there's a lot of opportunity, yet people don't know much about it. And it should be more and more included because it's becoming very pervasive in the strategy of business in the world around us, yet we don't really seem to know about it and aren't really talking about it. I've done a lot of interviews and other empirical research to understand what this thing does, but getting that out to a lot of other people has been a challenge. So there's lots of ways it can probably fit into curriculum as like an add-on. So let me give you a few resources to do that. So Gainsight, and it looked like a fair amount of people thought it could fit. There's a company called Gainsight, and I've done a lot of research with them, and they've been very helpful in my research. I have no vested interest or anything in Gainsight. They're sort of like a CRM system, but for customer success people. They help to do predictive value type stuff and manage customer accounts in ways that you can be proactive and help the customer to figure out what they need. But if you look at the Gainsight website, you'll find that they have a customer tab that has a lot of customer case study materials. They have a lot of like training and education type videos and other papers that you can pull down that are pretty easy to follow. I think those kind of things could be used in teaching in a lot of different classes as kind of here's a spotlight and something new and different that's happening in the world. Also related to Gainsight and started and run by Gainsight, but sort of a separate entity, is this thing called Pulse. And Pulse is a industry conference. I was at the one in San Francisco earlier this year, and it was probably 5,000-6,000 people, first one post-COVID, that are from this industry space, and they meet in San Francisco. There's also one this November in London. Won't be quite as big over in Europe, but it'll be large. But the reason I tell you about Pulse is not that you have to attend, but they have a lot of great materials. They have all kinds of guest speaker videos. They have all of their sessions, and you can access those at the website available here. The Customer Success Association also was very helpful in my knowledge on this, and they have a lot of good materials on their website. So you might want to look up the CSA, Customer Success Association. Tatango, just to be fair and not really shilling for Gainsight or anything, Tatango is a similar system to Gainsight. They also have a lot of materials on their website. That is another good place. And then I'll just tell you there's a lot of other stuff, okay? There's Forrester, Deloitte, Gartner, TSIA, and others have done research on this, and you can find a lot of good reports about it and definitions and different aspects of it. And I have some papers, and there's a few other people publishing papers on this academically. And really, the last one I have is just Google. Google it, right? If you're trying to teach about something, put in the words customer success in whatever topic and see if it relates in some way. And Google's pretty good at finding you some different resources for that. I think that's about it for me today. I don't know if I'm on time or not or where I'm at exactly, but we're about right. So I'm open for questions here. And I am on LinkedIn. I have termed myself the Doctor of Customer Success because I'm one of the few people doing academic research on it. And I'm involved in pretty much all the groups that are doing any academic research on it. It's a growing thing, but you can find me on LinkedIn. If you have questions, feel free to reach out or just Google my name or just Google University of Alabama Marketing Faculty. I'm a tenured associate professor doing research and teaching at the University of Alabama, so you'll find me there as well.